partner Gary, a few years back, used the hidden market. After he was walking down the street, found this property, saw that it was being mismanaged. He comes in, takes a look inside, and says, man, this place is really dumpy. It's been mismanaged. So what does he do? He goes back to his office and he starts pulling information online. He finds that the guy who owns the building doesn't own the land underneath the building. It's called a leasehold, right? It's when the guy who owns the land lets you build on his land and you got to pay rent every single month. Typically, it's a 100-year lease. Think about it. If you're building a building there, you want to be there for a while, right? And the reality is, chances are you won't live 100 years. So let's make money while we're alive, right? I guess that's the concept. I don't know. So anyway, long story short, he goes and he starts calling the owner of the what? The building or the land, right? Let's find out what's going on. He finds out that the guy who owns the land is like 80-something years old. He started this lease when he was 1. I'm just kidding. You didn't get that. I see how it is. You guys are slow, man. What's wrong? All right. So what he did, he started talking to the owner who didn't really want to pursue this, but what he found out was the guy who owned the building didn't want to pay the rent because the market sucked and he wasn't managing the property. So he just called the guy one day and said, look, the market's tanking, I don't feel like paying, and so I'll call you when we're making more money. And that was it. So it went on for 2 years. So this thing is, why is it doing that? It's driving me crazy. All right, so what he did is he negotiated a purchase of $1 million for the land underneath the building, which gave him the right to do what? To go after the tenant, right? After going after the tenant, it took 2 years, by the way. This was not a slow deal, but you'll see why it was worth it. He finally gets the tenant evicted, which means now he owns the land and he owns what? The building. Here's what's really cool. Creative financing commercial works. So what he said was, look, we're going to buy this property from you, but there's no income, so I got to foreclose, I got to do all this stuff. It's going to take a while, I got to pay attorney fees. So I'll give you $250,000 down, no payments until I foreclose. The guy has made how much money? 0 for 2 years? I'll take $250 now, and okay. So did Gary have to pay monthly payments on that $1 million? No. So now he's in this deal, he finally has a building, but only one problem. This particular property has almost 300 violation codes. Does Gary care? No, because he got a whole building for what? $1 million. Leveraged. With no payments. The best kind of leverage, right? So what he did is he raised some capital and some equity. So he had debt and equity, $8.9 million, and this is what the building looked like afterwards. Total cost, about $10 million. Some of you were there, so you know what I'm talking about, right? Re-gutted the whole thing. He started leasing up the property, leasing up the property, leasing up the property. He's about 55% when some crazy guy from New York had a 1031 exchange. Everybody say 1031, and then say cha-ching. So if somebody ever comes to you and says, I got a 1031, what do you say? Cha-ching, hey, have I got a deal for you? Right? Why? Because, number one, they got to move that money quickly. So sometimes they pay a little too much. So the guy comes to Gary and says, man, this building's beautiful, I want to buy it. I like what you did, I want to buy it. Gary says, sorry, the building's not for sale. We buy and hold, right? He goes, no, you don't understand. I have a bunch of cash. I need to move it, I want to buy it. Make me an offer I can't refuse. $20.3 million later, he was the proud owner of 250 North Orange in Orlando, Florida. Right? Was that a good day in the office for Gary? Or was that a good day in the office for his partners? You want in?